Today's video is brought to you by the worldwide leader in crop protectants. From seed treatment to foliar disease protection, Syngenta has you covered with the highest value products in the marketplace. Let's get out of the sun and into the shade offered by our nice looking corn crop here and show just a few products that Syngenta has to offer on the corn side. Speaking of protection, it's kind of miserable to walk out in tall corn like this with nice healthy leaves without some kind of sunglasses on, because these leaves will get you in the eye if you're not careful. Whew, it's actually not any cooler out here than out by the road, so I was completely wrong about this being a reprieve. It's not late enough in the season for these corn plants to really have cannibalized some of these lower leaves. It's really hard to showcase exactly how clean and weed-free this field is because of Acuron. Showed you this same field a month to 2 months ago, and it's not had any additional pressure since then. Of course, the canopy of the corn is a very big positive, aiding in that effort. However, a reliable, powerful premix with multiple modes of action, like offered in Acuron, is hard to pass up when it comes to keeping fields clean. The name of the game in farming is almost entirely yield. That is what you're looking for: high yields and hopefully high prices. I have no doubt in my mind that with proper management, good groundwork of fertility, drainage, and product placement, along with supplemental usage of crop-safe, yield-enhancing, or better yet, yield-protecting products like Acuron on the herbicide side of the equation to help keep weeds down, minimize plant competition for nutrients, water, and sunlight, and of course, Miravis Neo, the flagship of corn fungicides to promote plant health and protect against some of those foliar fungal diseases. We have a recipe out here on some of these fields to produce some ridiculous yields. And that's exactly what we're hoping to do this year, and we plan to do every year when we get geared up and make our decisions for the crop. This corn right here is planted at 36,000. It's probably got a 34.5 to 35,000 final stand. A long way to go when it comes to making yield. I am extremely confident, though, that our use of Syngenta crop protectants has provided a lot of value to hopefully maybe finally break that 300 bushel an acre threshold. Although, there's a lot that can still go wrong from here on out. Yes, I know, I probably picked a good-looking spot. There are definitely spots in the field that don't look this good, and there are also a lot of spots that look way better than this. It's all about the average, and I think this is a good representation of what we have out here. Obviously, we've got the kernel count, and hopefully finish with the test weight for high yields. It's out here. What's not out here, though, is high pressure from weeds like water hemp, morning glory, of course, being a consideration later in the season, and I am very confident that we should finish this season without any added weed pressure, hopefully not adding anything to the seed bank, and ultimately high yields. The plant health is definitely here. This had Miravis Neo applied to it almost 3 weeks ago now. Very healthy looking upper canopy. Ear leaf is relatively clean for this point in the season. There's no reason that we shouldn't find success, barring any kind of outside intervention from Mother Nature. On our farm, we have found time and time again that the saying always holds true: you never get more than what you pay for. And when it comes to herbicide programs on corn, whether that being cut rate approaches to premium products or using generics, a lot of times it's not the optimal solution for promoting weed-free fields and, of course, crop-safe chemistries. Every grower wants to see a weed-free lower canopy and a nice healthy corn crop out in the field. There are definitely alternatives on the market that are cheaper. We've found some of those to be lackluster, some of them to actually have a scary amount of crop response. And all of those together, whether it be the weeds or dinging your growing corn crop, are not a good recipe for high yields. We've worked with Syngenta for at least as long as I've been on the farm, and beyond that, I've always appreciated their approach to providing effective modes of action in pre-mixes to make it easier for farmers to use, and that crop safety has to be mentioned. What good is keeping the weeds out of the field if you're causing tremendous crop response and stress to your high-value cash crop out here? Years ago, it was Lexar, then it evolved into Acuron, which we still use heavily today, and even now we have trials of their newest product, Storin, which shows a lot of promise for helping fight against herbicide-resistant weeds. You can never have too many effective crop-safe modes of action in the tank to help keep weed pressure down, keep your plants healthy, and not fighting against that ornery water hemp that can almost outgrow corn sometimes. Whew, doesn't seem like it when you're planting or spraying, but 48 inrows is a lot of inrows to walk through to get to the actual long rows of the field. And it is not any cooler out in the field than it is outside. That was an illusion. Oh, it's actually cooler out here because there's a breeze. The corn blocks most of the breeze on the inside. If you are a fellow Midwestern corn grower dissatisfied with your current program from a competitor or generic alternative, I would highly recommend Acuron. I like the full labeled rate, 3 quarts an acre. Bump the atrazine up a little bit as you see fit. Preferably split the entire load into 2 passes. I don't think 1 pass, even with a product as powerful as Acuron, is agronomically sound in the long run. We need to keep the weeds from coming up. And some of these products, when we're applying them the beginning of April, you're asking a lot, even out of the strongest stuff, to keep things down in late June, especially if you have poor performance, poor canopy from unfortunate inclement weather. Definitely my preferred method, 2-pass Acuron, bump the atrazine. You may need a little bit of Roundup post if you have any grass come through, but that is an option that provides a lot of value, a lot of crop safety, and helps add to that equation for high yields. I'm a big fan of the flexibility of the 2-pass system. It gives you a lot more management options, whether you want to run a UAN product 32 or 28 as a carrier to get some pre-plant nitrogen down ahead of corn planting. I also believe it gives you a little more flexibility on the back end when it comes to post-spraying, because when we plant corn naked with nothing out there, that water hemp gets some speed and momentum, and even the most potent chemistries out there right now are struggling to take down water hemp, let alone Palmer amaranth, which we fortunately don't have and I never want to see. It's a weed that needs to be stopped before it comes up. That's what we have to do on all of our acres. Pre-plant residual products that are effective and crop safe. Acuron has that. We may be 3 weeks behind of schedule thanks to that horrible planting season that was super delayed and wet. However, we're finally caught up. We're down to the last 10,000 bushels of corn. While Dad and I have been working on spraying, Chris and Jeff have hauled the last few bin sites, trying to get a lot done. It's just like we're underwater, trying to get our head out to get a breath this year. From start to finish, everything's just been screwed up. We should have been more proactive this winter hauling grain, both for logistical reasons and for price reasons. Grain is certainly not worth very much today compared to what it was worth in February, and it's especially cheaper than what it was worth this fall. I know many of you are farmers yourselves, you follow the markets, or maybe you're not a farmer and you listen to other YouTubers and commentators on the markets themselves. Grain prices have significantly reduced along with commodities as a whole versus where they were 2 to 3 years ago. Some of that is just the natural effect of supply and demand. When prices are high like they were, people plant corn everywhere, even on the sidewalks, the middle of the road. They plant corn, they plant beans, they plant wheat, because it's very profitable to do so. Now we're on the rebound side of things, and prices really aren't that appealing, especially when you account for inflated input prices, equipment being so expensive. Everything in this world has gone up because of our money being worth less. Not to beat my own chest, I made our best corn sale for this season the fall before last, when I contracted some stuff for delivery just under $6 a bushel to our local elevators. And now this stuff we're hauling on a cash basis is worth $3.80 a bushel. Let's just say that's a $2 a bushel swing at a 230 bushel dry average last year. That is $460 an acre in profit lost from improper marketing or poor hedging, depending on how you want to look at it. There's a tremendous list of things on the farm that I think we excel in. One thing that we lack on, which is arguably the hardest part about farming, is making practical and safe marketing decisions. Dad has always been a swing for the fences, hold the grain in the summer, hope there's a drought and make a fortune type of guy. I look at things a little bit more per acre cost wise. The reason I made such an aggressive sale 2 falls ago for this crop right here that we're hauling off is I was looking at $500 to $600 an acre in non-land expenses for corn, for seed, inputs, equipment, all that stuff. Add in a cash rent on top of that, which isn't cheap. And I thought $6 for hopefully at least 200 bushel corn is a nice profit that I would be happy to lock in. My dad, like I said, he plays a whole different game. He's aware of the cost, he's very smart. He just markets a little more old school. And I think as the world continues to produce more We all have to get better at marketing if we want to maintain some extreme profitability or more marginal profitability versus our competitors, who also happen to be our neighbors. At least we're ending this one on an easy one. This is our second newest bin on the farm currently, integrated power sweep. Once you get the doors open and the grain to the floor, flip a switch and she starts running. Back to the grain marketing for a second. We saw this same trend in 2012, 2013. Grain prices spiked way high between increased demand from the renewable fuel standard in the late 2000s and then a major drought in 2012. We were selling $8 corn in the summer of 2012 that we'd held from 2011, which was essentially that grand slam we talk about. The market regulates itself very quickly, and the same thing occurred where a ton of people planted corn, and next thing you know, corn was $3 within a couple of years. So hindsight is 2020. Probably when you get major spikes in price, you ought to consider forward contracting more new crop and worrying less about the production risk of it, because that's kind of the gremlin that sits on your shoulders. We can sell $6 corn in the fall for next year, last year, but we can't guarantee that we're gonna have 200 bushel an acre corn. Most of the time we do, so that's where it gets complicated. At least the beehives are doing well. I don't know if this is one hive or multiple hives. They've been here for probably a decade now, and we've even had someone come and take one of the queens before, and they just keep thriving in the side of an old shed here, and there's a lot of them. We try to do our best to not anger them, and we haven't managed to kill them, so that's good for us. Can't say we don't care about the environment. It's actually pretty impressive because they've got multiple entry points. Today, they're mostly coming out of this one. Some days, they're coming out of this one pretty aggressively. Got another one down here, another one up there, one over there. Occasionally, they're over there. So 6+ places to come in. And I'm not going to stand here any longer than I have to. I don't want to overstay my welcome. It is very possible to anger these bees. I've never personally had an issue. Dad and Katie both have stopped mowing this as regularly. If there's not very many out, they'll mow closer. If there's a lot out though, you can tell they do a little wide swath here because it's best to just leave them alone when they're very prolific. I prefer to not let Dad run the controls of the out auger because he always manages to plug them. Not that I don't do it occasionally too.
You got them both closed?
Yep, I believe so. The sweep is not on, right?
It's not on.
Down to the last 2 loads on that bin. On our lunch break, we are going to do one last pass of foliar fertilizer on a field. It's not ours, it's a custom arrangement. The owner wants to try to reboot the beans from some water damage, so we're putting on a micronutrient blend to see if we can salvage the beans from a tremendous amount of water pressure. A lot of pain has been felt out there from standing water. So the goal is to go over and spray just a little bit. On our own farm, we're done spraying. Fungicide, insecticides, done on everything. This is essentially the last pass until we start thinking about maybe doing some fall chemical programs to keep our soybean stubble clean going to corn. The beans actually look somewhat better than I was expecting. The low spot though does not look great, which is what we're trying to kind of cheer up a little bit with these foliars. Also going crossways to match the grade of water a little bit. That project is done. We will see come harvest if it makes a difference. Some of those beans are beyond salvation. The others might appreciate a little kickstart. I think this field does look better than it did 2 years ago with all the rains. There's a lot of water out here. Surface drainage has helped, but you may not be able to do everything unless you put some tile in or some really big mains to drain some of that surface water. Okay, now we're officially done spraying. That was pretty quick. Longest part was just driving to and from the field. Back to reality. This should be our last load of 2023 corn. Better late than never. Could be worth more. If you haven't heard me say that already, like a broken record. I'm in actually pretty good spirits. I'm really impressed with how that field at Lerna looks compared to when I sprayed it with fungicide 2.5 to 3 weeks ago. They got as much water as us here over south of Mattoon, where I showed you all the water damage, if not actually a couple inches more. That field in particular is a really low lying, like our big wet field over here, and you see similar symptomology, similar damage from the water. The beans have rounded the corner. That farm has had all that surface drainage done. I don't know if it's enough. I think it helped a lot, especially compared to 2 years ago. There was a lot of water damage out there. However, I think you need the full system. I think surface drainage work takes the brunt of the water load off, but you still need to lower that water table and dry out those dark, mucky, swampy soils, and that's where the tile comes in. It's obviously more expensive, so it gets kind of complicated economically. It's safe to say that we can officially transition away from crop care and last year's grain to actually thinking about harvest. Got a new 2,500 gallon diesel fuel tank coming to the main farm, so we can hold 7,500 gallons of off-road diesel. That should help us get through fall without having to get an extra load or a little bit less of a second load. It's amazing how much fuel you burn between the two combines, the grain cart, everything. All adds up pretty quick in today's world. Either way, time to transition off into another new world. Hopefully good yields beyond us. Maybe we'll do some yield checks here in the next couple weeks, see how things end up. I'm gonna take off though for the day. I appreciate you all tuning in. Catch you in the next one. Peace!